If people, want to follow along with some of the things that I've been thinking about lately as I write about and teach, sort of in what I call the overlap of the Venn diagram of religion and psychology and spirituality, is kind of where I try to have my sweet spot. So that's it. The countdown's over, which means perspective shift has begun. But honestly, even the countdown belongs, because as Meg said, or actually Meg didn't say was good, she might have wanted to know what music was playing so that she could avoid it. But I don't think so. Let me see if I can change that to look a little nicer. I don't like the black letters on black. All right, let's try this again. That looks better. Meg Levins, what's going on in your profile pic? Is that a cat? Yes, I see it now. It's a cat. We have 2 cats in our house. One of them a fairly new kitten named Gilbert, and he's very destructive of just about everything, including our children, because of his cuteness. Why is he so cute, they say. Anyway, all right. Hi, welcome to Perspective Shift. I'm your host, Colby Martin, and I do this every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And Perspective Shift is my weekly newsletter that I write, and you can see the URL right there, colbymartin.substack.com. If you go there, you can sign up to get my weekly newsletter, Perspective Shift. Get that fly out of my way. Yes, the music was great. Okay, thanks, Meg Levins. I assumed that was why you were asking what the music was, not so that you could avoid it, but so that you knew what it was. And it's your 16-year-old cat. That's kind of old for cats, isn't it? I don't know much about cats. I'm not really an animal person. My wife, bless her heart, has put up with me for all these years. She's a great animal person. I am non-animal person, but that's not why you're here. You're not here to find out about animals. You're here because, well, I'm not actually sure why you're here, but I'm glad that you are, because what I'm going to do here now is transition over to read with you the article that I published today. This is what this show is about. I write these articles on Wednesday mornings, and then on Wednesday afternoons, I hop on YouTube and Facebook here, and I do a live reading of it and interact with whoever wants to show up. Because not everybody has time to read, but they might still want to know what it is I'm writing about. So this is kind of the audible version of my newsletter, if you will. You can stick this in your Kindle and listen on road trips. Actually, I don't think that's true. So let me switch here. Actually, let me turn the iPad on first. Excellent. And we'll bring it up here. Fantastic. So here is today's article as published on my Substack. You can see the URL right there, colbymartin.substack.com. And this just went live this morning, well, as you can see there on the subtitle, 4 hours ago. And the title is, Here's Why You're Tired. Here's Why You're Tired. Subtitle is, well, you weren't made to live like this, but there's something that can help. And so this is my reflection on why it is that myself, and I wager others as well, are just kind of feeling tired. So let's dig into that. And I'm super curious to know what you think, how it lands with you. So feel free to, as I go, I can see all your comments here. Feel free to share, interact, respond, whatever. But without any more ado, this is my article titled, Here's Why You're Tired. So if you're anything like me right now, you're tired. Physically, emotionally, mentally, that soul tired. And I'm going to tell you what I myself needed to hear last week. And it's this tiredness that you're experiencing, that I'm experiencing right now, it makes so much sense. That's it. The tiredness, it makes sense. Pandemic aside, which obviously is intensifying all of life's normal stressors, this modern life that we live, especially here in America, is vastly different. This might be an obvious, thank you, Captain Obvious statement, but just hang with me here. It's vastly different from the life that our species spent most of its existence evolving within. To put it plainly, your body and your mind were not designed to work this hard, work this much, and have little to no rest and relaxation. So here's one way to think about it. Here's a sort of an extended metaphor, which if you know anything about me, I love my metaphors. So imagine your body as an iPhone. Imagine the following. Let's just say, for the sake of this illustration, that it took 2 years and 11 months. Starting in January of one year, it took 2 full years and then 11 months to design and develop and create the original iPhone. And then finally, on December 1st of that final year, Apple unveils the iPhone to the world and everyone gets one for free. Now, fun fact, I actually still have my original iPhone. Look at this. It doesn't actually work anymore. I think I can maybe charge it up and power it on. It's still in decent shape. It's an 8 gigabyte and it's so adorable as it sits. Well, I only have the iPhone 8, so it's not that big, but I imagine those of you who have the pluses or the maxes would really put this guy to shame. But anyway, original iPhone here. So let's just say everyone got one for free on December 1st after 2 years and 11 months of development. It is, in a word, glorious. The hardware inside this device is magical and mysterious and meticulously designed over the course of 35 months to just work. It just works. And that first afternoon, when you get it in December, you rejoice at how impeccably the hardware integrates with the software. The swiping, the tapping, it's simply a marvel. Then just a couple days later, on December 3rd, hang with me here, this is all a metaphor to compare your body to the original iPhone, and I think it will make sense. Then on December 3rd, just 48 hours later after you get your new phone, Apple releases a software update, improving the functionality here and tweaking the efficiency there. And it's automatic, of course. You don't get a choice in it. It just happens. But still, you realize this phone far exceeds anything else you've ever had. So you just kind of shrug it off and move on. And then another week goes by and you wake up to an alert that your phone updated once again to yet another operating system. And this new software claims to be faster and more effective at doing tasks. And on one hand, you kind of agree, it does seem to load this new program better. But on the other hand, you notice how now it starts to be like when you tap to type a text, there's a lag between when you tap the button and when it shows up on your screen. Kind of annoying, but you just move on. And you kind of swear that the battery is starting to die a little faster. Now, fast forward a couple more days, it's about the middle of December, and again, Apple gleefully declares another software update. They regale you with stories of how this new operating system will make your life better as it more efficiently handles day-to-day tasks. Now, you're a bit surprised at this point that it took them more than 1,000 days to make the hardware, and then in the first 14 days of its release, now they've cranked out 3 new software upgrades. And this newest version is supposed to be better as with than the update from last week, but you're not entirely convinced. I mean, you start to think, has my phone always been this slow? You swear it was fast and zippy and smooth on that first day, and yet now the lag is definitely noticeable. A couple days later, now it's right before Christmas, and Apple again announces on the coming morning of the 25th, they have another update that will blow your mind. It's a gift for everyone. You quickly search your phone to see if you can prevent the auto update because by now you're convinced that the hardware of your phone is no longer equipped to handle all these new software upgrades. But alas, you cannot stop it. The evolution of the operating system is like Thanos. It is inevitable. And so the day after Christmas, now you're just kind of a teensy bit sad that maybe you should have asked Santa for a new non-Apple phone because at this point, after 3 weeks and 5 updates, your brand new $1,000 phone is essentially a glorified pocket watch. It takes forever to turn on, apps are slow as gravy, and no matter what you do, the phone is dead by noon. Now it's New Year's Eve, a full month into your phone. You hold your once precious iPhone in your hand that just a month before captivated you with its complexity, its power, its speed, and the joy that it once brought you in spades is now replaced by sadness. The poor thing just looks tired. It just can't keep up anymore. The hardware that the phone had spent months preparing and perfecting and slowly adapting and making minor tweaks and upgrades here and there, inching itself toward a piece of technology so sophisticated, so advanced, that it sat at the top of the phone pyramid, master of its domain. Now, the hardware just kind of buckles under the exhausting weight of the newest operating system. Apple swore to you that these new changes were for your good, to help make your life more spacious and more enjoyable, and yet you spend your hours frustrated, annoyed, and underwhelmed. I submit to you, dear reader and dear listener, that our human bodies are kind of like an original iPhone trying to run the latest and greatest operating system, aka our modern American way of life. The new software promises to make life better, and yet we only ever end up disappointed because there's simply no way our hardware can keep up. It just wasn't designed for it. We were not designed for this. All right, quick drink. All that metaphor seeps into your brain. And I want to talk about that ache. That ache that you sometimes feel deep in your bones, that life's got to be more than this, right? More than overtime and multiple jobs and the constant hustle to make ends meet. That sense that you have that just kind of lingers right outside your consciousness that suggests to you that this way of living doesn't really seem right. Or that tiredness in your soul because you feel like you work so hard, maybe too hard, and yet still don't have enough. All of that, it makes so much sense. Those tired aches, they're telling you, it's telling me, this is what I needed to hear last week. It's telling me something, and we would do well to listen to that something. For about 300,000 years, give or take 10 millennia, Homo sapiens did the slow evolutionary work of moving from an ape-like mammal to something more akin to you and me today. These are our most formative years in terms of our brain development. Now, I'll pause right there and say two things. One, if you're just joining us, hi, my name's Colby, and this is Perspective Shift. Perspective Shift is a weekly newsletter that I write at Substack. You can go to colbymartin.substack.com to subscribe to that. And that's what I'm reading right here. And then I hop on Facebook and YouTube on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. and do a live reading of what I've written in case anybody didn't have time to read it or prefers this medium or wants to interact or just sort of in some way play along to the things that I'm writing about and thinking about. And today I'm writing about why it is that so many of us might be so tired. And I'm going back now to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. So for about the first 300,000 years, Homo sapiens evolving into this sort of the brain that we have today. This is our formative years of brain development. And during this time, at least according to Yuval Noah Harari's masterpiece book, Sapiens, a typical tribe of hunter-gatherers would spend a few hours in the morning hunting and gathering, aka their work, and then be home around noon to spend the rest of the day and the evening kind of cooking and just preparing for the next day, but really just being chill and relaxed and enjoying their family and friends. And I'm seeing suddenly my bandwidth is plummeting. So if my feed is stuttering or slowing out, I apologize. It'll kick back up here in a minute. Some experts in the field actually suggest that this time in our evolutionary history was the original affluent society, just in terms of the balance of work and play. And then fast forward to what you could call the agrarian societies from about 400 BC to about 1600 AD. And during this 2,000 year period, work was confined in many ways to the rhythms of nature, coupled with the allotment of religious festivals and holy days or holidays. One estimate suggests that your typical medieval farmer in the 16th century would have only worked about a third of the year, with about 2/3 being off days for things like religious festivals, holidays, Sundays, and then just nature's calendar, according to the harvest and the sun, and there wasn't artificial light to work in. So all of this sort of contributed to humans working in some ways comparatively far less than we are used to now. And all of this tells me that at the dawn of capitalism, about the 17th century Europe, just as the idea of this wage earner became a thing in the world, humans had spent the previous thousands upon thousands of years in a particular relational balance to work. And yet now, however, you might recognize this, we live in a world where the norm is something like working 40 to 60 hours a week, oftentimes at a job that we don't love, for wages that for most people aren't entirely livable, and in an industry that doesn't really need or value us. This sort of routine, this sort of rhythm, this sort of way of life prior to just 300 years ago would have been totally foreign to most people. These past 3 centuries have brought unprecedented advances in technology. Yes. And then combine that with new economic models like capitalism, it has amounted to the sort of a blazing fast operating system of efficiency and productivity. Yes, that's true. Incredible. And it's been forced upon the hardware of us, the human being, who are wholly unprepared and unequipped for such programs. This is why I used earlier the metaphor of the original iPhone. Imagine getting that and then trying to put like the iOS 14 that just came out, trying to put that on here. It just wouldn't work. I would slog down, grind to a halt, hardware not prepared to run the software. And so therefore, instead of working a very specific and contained amount of time to ensure that our basic needs are met and then enjoying the rest of what life has to offer, much like our ancestors and ancestors before them, we now work our freaking butts off to earn money, hoping that we can acquire enough to meet our needs, all with little or no time left for non-work enjoyment. This is why I say, yes, we're tired. Many of us, not all of us, many of us are tired. And this is where I think the ancient Jewish practice of Sabbath comes in. Now, I grew up thinking that the term Sabbath just meant you went to church on Sundays and then you came home and you took a nap. And at best, it was a way to talk about Sunday being sort of a special and different day than others. And at worst, it was just sort of an antiquated afterthought. Like, we don't really do Sabbath. But the Hebrew people who wandering in the desert after recently being freed from their years of slavery in Egypt, the Hebrew people were attempting to imagine a new way to be human, one that wasn't defined by how many bricks you could make in a single day. And key to their program for returning humans back into a healthier, more whole rhythm of life was to implement what they called Sabbath rest. One whole day a week to not work, to not do. Years ago, I heard what has been my favorite definition of Sabbath, which is this: divine permission to accomplish nothing. Sabbath rest shouldn't just be something we wave away as this religious tomfoolery, nor should it just be ignored as something to do, well, maybe if you're bored, if you have luxury time, you could Sabbath. What if Sabbath rest should be this intentional reset of our internal hardware, to remind ourselves that we are not meant to work, do, produce, create. If we are these ancient phones struggling under the strain of hyper-modern software, then Sabbath is like the Control-Alt-Delete. That was the Control-Alt-Delete movement gesture, I guess. Sabbath is like the Control-Alt-Delete that gifts us a recalibration for our bodies and minds. You quite literally were not designed to live like this, is my point. And yet, we're stuck in a world, we're stuck in a system that is rigged against us. It's designed to turn us into workers, human doings instead of human beings. And you can feel it. You can feel it. I know you can. I can. We strain under this weight. Our bones ache. Our mind slogs because you're trying to run iOS 14 on an old freaking original iPhone. I've been trying, that's the key word there, trying to reintegrate a type of Sabbath practice into my life, where I intentionally look for moments to value what the world wants me to ignore, like rest and solitude and silence and stillness and non-productivity and non-money and money spending, and then to ignore what the world wants me to value: money, productivity, hurriedness, work, buying shit. This is not easy, especially as an Enneagram 3, because I very much find my worth and my value in producing and accomplishing and doing. So I guess what I'm saying is, if even I can at least practice or try to do this, then you can too, my friends. And so my hope with this article is simply this: to normalize the sense of tiredness that you feel, to suggest that this kind of tiredness is pointing us to something real, that we should listen to that, and name that something is that we are not designed to work so much. We're not designed to work so much. And then to invite us to consider practicing Sabbath. And then I end the article by saying, perhaps I'll write more on this later, but right now I've already typed 1,700 words and I'm tired. I'm so funny. Now, so that's my article for today on engaging with why it is that we might be so tired. And obviously there's dozens of other reasons why people might be tired: diet, dehydration, they have a bad mattress. Like I said, just a global pandemic's gonna make everybody tired. But I'm trying to speak to a larger truth of the fact that our bodies, the hardware of our bodies, have just spent the formative years of development with a particular relationship to work and rest. And in the last 300 years, especially with the emergence of capitalism, we've become just these constant cogs in a machine that are always, always, always working. And I don't entirely know that there's a ton we can do about it. We're not going to dismantle capitalism anytime soon. We're not going to sort of upend our society to value more rest and relaxation. But what we can do, and this is where I think we can just we can attempt to integrate practices of Sabbath. Now, I wrote this, and if you wanted to go on here, let's see, if I leave the reader mode, hide reader view, then you can see that a few people had some thoughts on this. And one guy in particular didn't really like how I talked about Sabbath. And I just want to say to you, Big Rig, that totally makes sense. That's totally fine. I was very, very vague, almost intentionally so, on my talking about Sabbath, which is why I ended by saying maybe I'll spend more time unpacking it more later. Because what I don't mean by Sabbath is just that traditional one day on Sunday, or some people Saturday, to just take a day off of work. Sabbath might be just a metaphorical way to talk about this reality that we need to practice not doing. We need to practice not accomplishing. We need to practice not being people who are defined by just work and productivity and making things and buying things. This is, to me, just what the ancient practice, part of what the ancient practice of Sabbath is pointing to, is that we are meant for more than just creation and productivity. And that when we are just stuck in these grinds, it will wear us down. We will feel tired. We will feel like an original iPhone that's trying to run iOS 14. And that's the state I think many of us are in. That's what the top of the article here, I did this long metaphor of how we are like an original iPhone trying to run this modern hyper fast software. So those are my thoughts on why I think many of us are so tired, because it just makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Of course we're tired. Of course we are. We are in a world, in a society that has a particular relationship to work that is really brand new for Homo sapiens. Brand new. Which, by the way, another guy I didn't show in the comment section, but another guy really took issue with the fact that I believe in evolution. Or I should say accept. I would say accept it. I don't know if there's to believe. Just accept that somehow evolution is a thing. So one reader really didn't like that I just took that for granted and assumed that was real. But that's fine. He called it incompatible with Christian doctrine, and I don't really understand that at all, because I am a Christian and I know a lot about Christian doctrine, and the theory of evolution is not incompatible at all with it. But I understand where he's coming from, because that would have been what I said 20 years ago as well. But anyway, so that's what I came on here to say today, to read my article. Again, you can, if you're just joining me, you can go to colbymartin.substack.com and sign up to get these newsletters, which get sent out every Wednesday morning. And then I hop on here live on Facebook and YouTube to do a live reading of that article and interact with anyone who wants to interact. I took the last 2 Wednesdays off for Thanksgiving, and the week before that, I don't remember. I had, I think, a friend's wedding or something. But point is, I'm back Wednesdays at 2. I look forward to being online here all December long, except maybe, does Christmas fall on a Wednesday? I don't know. If Christmas falls on a Wednesday, then I won't be on here. But other than that, I'll be here all December long. And then finally, last thing I want to say is, if you would like to, hi Susan, thank you. If you would like to come back tonight at 7 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook for the Kate and Colby show, we're also coming back tonight. So my wife, Kate, and I do a weekly show on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific. We took the last 2 weeks off as well, but we'll be back tonight. And tonight we are going to, what's our topic for tonight? We just came up with it and it was good. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about gratitude in the midst of things like global pandemics. the age-old making lemonade out of lemons, and the tension between naming the terrible suffering of life and yet can we still find, what does that look like? What does that feel like to find things within the chaos to be grateful for? Anyway, so that's at 7:00 tonight. thecatoncolbyshow.com. You can go there, or you can just search for us on YouTube or Facebook, and we will see you tonight at 7:00. Other than that, thank you for joining me today. Yes, Mercy Morgan, we're going to be back. We'll see you tonight if you're going to join us. I know you're a couple hours ahead of us, so it might get late, but we'll be here if you want to join us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm Colby. This is Perspective Shift, and I'm signing off. Goodbye. See you next week. If you'd like to sign up to get my weekly newsletter, Perspective Shift, where I examine life through a mixed lens of progressive Christianity, psychology, and spirituality, simply head over to colbymartin.substack.com. Enter your email address and click subscribe. And once you're in, you'll see that all my past articles are here. And don't worry, you don't have to do anything about missing anything, because every new edition of the newsletter goes directly to your inbox. And periodically, I'll hop on the Facebook Live here and do a live reading of a past article. So just make sure that you go to facebook.com/ColbyMartinAuthor, and then if you haven't already, you click this little guy here and you like my page. That way Facebook will say, hey, guess what? Colby's going live. Thanks for tuning in.